Finally, a compelling and gripping crime drama has captivated audiences with its very authentic depiction of Punjab, exceptional performances and well-crafted characters. I'm talking about Kohrra, which premiered on Netflix last week and revolves around a murder investigation of a young NRI man just before his wedding in rural Punjab. Now, people have been raving about this because of what they're calling its intriguing storyline and how Kohrra has delved deep into the complexities of culture, of crime, of drugs, migration, homosexuality. And people are also talking about how there seems to be layers of depth in every single character. And that's why it's a great pleasure to welcome onto this program Barun Sobti, who's of course one of the lead actors in Kohrra, and also Sudip Sharma, the creator and the scriptwriter of Kohrra. I'm going to start with you, Sudip, because I think one of the most impressive things that's been happening right now, and I'm sure you must be very happy about it, is the amount of attention and interest and focus that is now being given to the script itself, to the writing, to the plot, to the storyline. That seems to be really quite literally be getting a lot of the attention in shows like Kohrra and others. You must be happy to see that.
I mean, it's been slowly changing, you know, from the time I started working. It's almost been 20 years now. I think it's slowly year by year. I think scripts are getting more and more notice. Writers are getting more and more notice, and that's been a big welcome change in cinema in Bombay and in India, I would say. I mean, I saw it with first with Urta Punjab. There's writing got a lot of attention. Then there was with Patallo, and now with Kohrra again. You know, and not just my own projects, but also other projects that you see, other work that you see getting appreciated, and that's great actually.
Right, Barun, so when you see the sort of response that comes to shows like Kohrra, again, it's the realism also in the acting. Your acting, for example, is being praised for the realism that you portray. All sides of a character, all shades of a character. It's not just that old macho hero whom you've become so used to seeing unidimensional characters. Is that something that you think is increasingly becoming central to shows like this?
Yeah, increasingly compared to how it used to be, of course. But then the point is that not every filmmaker is the same. Like with Sudip and the whole gang, like we were given the freedom to just go, you know, to what you really think about the character. You know, we discussed it way too much before we started, and everyone was on the same page. I was over the moon with the kind of liberties we had with respect. There was not a set pattern. We were told something, then you know, all the actors brought something. It was seen, it was mildly tweaked and corrected, and you know, that's the amount of liberty we had. But that's not the case everywhere, no. And I think every project also demands a different kind of direction or understanding of the script. But here it was very liberating, and yeah, increasingly that's happening. Yeah.
But let me just take that forward. I think the aspect which I'm talking about are the layers to a character. For example, your character in Kohrra has been described in reviews as being macho and vulnerable at the same time. Now, they are two far ends of the spectrum. You're displaying them in one character.
So see, the display comes later. First, the writing comes, and you know, with the way it was written, and to be honest with you, we didn't deviate much from the writing. Actually, it was pretty close to verbatim what we shot. And it was so well written, then you know it only encourages you and gives you you know I don't know how to say it, but I think the display of the acting, I mean, it comes later. It's just that it was written so well, and I'm not being modest. I'm not taking anything away from myself, but it was just too well written. It would have been a shame it was not performed well.
Sudip, let me just stick with that theme of realism. Now, there was a time when people went to the movie hall or watched soaps on television, essentially for escapism. Their life was tough, they're having problems day to day. So when you go to a movie theater, you're watching a TV soap, you want escapism, you want to get away from reality. But the sort of shows and programs that you, for example, make, they're about the underbelly, they're about the nitty-gritty of actual life, they're about the grittier side of life, and yet somehow they seem to be being appreciated and watched.
Yeah, I think there is room for all kinds of cinema and all kinds of storytelling to exist. And I think that's what, I mean, you're right, you know, our cinema was more or less unidimensional till one point of time where I understand that escapism is sort of one of the ways to go about cinema, and that it has always been an escapist medium. But there are also, there are also other niches. There are also other ways of telling a particular story, and that, I think, especially with OTT, it just becomes more and more easy because there are all kinds of audiences and all kinds of tastes, and you have to cater to all of them, right? And that makes it easy for you to what happens in the case of theater, which is still what we see, in our theatrical films, is that, oh, you need to get so many people into the theater, and they wouldn't come in, and there's not room enough for niche. But with OTT, it's possible to make different kinds of cinema with very different tastes and very different sort of levels of realism in it, and it would, if it's a good show or a good story, it would probably still be lapped up, and that's a big change. And I think it started about 20-25 years back, with films like Bandit Queen and Satya and Makbul, and then slowly, like, the next generation of writers and filmmakers, people like me and Randeep, we are sort of, just taking on the mantle taking on the mantle forward, really.
Barun, is that true in acting as well? I mean, when you're now doing a role, are you conscious that you should try and make it as realistic and as lifelike as possible, as opposed to being, the hero, larger than life character, maybe hamming it up a bit?
Yeah, that does not interest me. So a lot of people take that approach, but like the approach is different with every character. Our character, the approach was exactly as you said, can't be the unidimensional, a cop who's going to just, thump everyone and, but beating up 50 people kind of a thing. We had to bring in the vulnerability, the likability. So there were so many layers. I, for one, actually haven't worked a lot. The reason for that has been that I wanted to do complex characters, and they were not enough, to be honest with you. I was offered a lot of stuff. I didn't work for 5 years almost because there was nothing that was complex or challenging, and stuff like that. So yeah, it's changing. The approach of the actor and the character both matter a lot.
Sudip, a lot of what you seem to be doing is almost journalistic, if I can use that phrase in a manner. I remember Patal Lok I found particularly fascinating because when I was personally a young cub reporter, I spent a lot of time chasing Dadua dacoit all across the jungles in Allahabad, trying to get an interview with him a long time back. And a lot of that was displayed in Patal Lok. Now, similarly, here in Kohrra, the sort of things that you're displaying about rural Punjab and cultural attitudes and mores out there, we've seen a lot of that journalistically in the killing of Sidhu Moosewala and other such stories that have hit the newspapers in the recent times.
Yeah, I'm actually I'm really interested in a journalistic approach to storytelling. I'm like my idol when it comes to writing, screenwriting is David Simon, the guy who created The Wire and a lot of other stuff like that. And I was really taken in by this journalistic approach to writing and journalistic approach to looking at societies, to looking at how crime affects societies and how these institutions of societies, be it the police or be it the politicians, be it these various, how they sort of coexist and intersect each other and influence each other. That I try to carry forward in my work, and even if I don't try to, I think it just seeps in. I'm quite enamored and fascinated by, because it's also, we are also, I mean, at least I am trying to understand the country and its complexities through my work, and somehow I feel that this sort of an approach is best suited for that.
Barun Sobti, Sudip Sharma, thank you both so much for joining us on the program. Thanks a lot.